And I want to welcome everybody here on our very first live session of 2026. I just feel a new energetic resonance this year. Something has shifted, and I do believe in the power of numbers. And as I understand, 2026, 2 2 6 equals 10, and 1 and 0 equals 1, which is a new beginning. So that meant 2025 was a 9, and it was a wrapping up of a whole bunch of stuff, and now we are in a very new energetic vibration. And it is my sincerest wish and prayer that everybody that is on here today and everyone we're connected to, because we're all energy, may we see so much peace and joy, happiness and health and harmony, prosperity, and all good things. May they find their way into our vibration because it's all around us. We just need to be open to it. Thank you. And thank you to all the people that have come to join us today. I know there's so many new people in our family today that have joined us, so many new faces. And I'm just so happy that you've all come and chosen to share your space with us. So today is a very special live session because our soul sister Charu will be hosting this session. And I absolutely love when that happens because that means I can be a participant and I can really be present and listen to our guest today, who is Bonnie Sharf. We have shared Bonnie's testimonial videos. And if I thought I knew a lot about Bonnie when I was watching her testimonial video, it's not a drop in the ocean to when I actually chatted with her very briefly. Actually, we had quite a good big chat, and there's so many layers to you, Bonnie. Like when I was on the call with you, I just felt such a beautiful vibration coming off you. You are just the embodiment of everything that Dr. Joe teaches about waking meditations. It's not just what we do in the 1 hour that is a fantastic meditation, or 2 or 3 or 5 hours of the fantastic meditations we may prioritize in the day. It's who we are being in our waking hours. And I just felt that beautiful wall of energy. And it's no surprise because I know Charu's heart. And so if you've resonated to Charu, then there's obviously no surprise to me that you're the same energy as Charu. So I want to welcome you, Bonnie. I want to thank you, Charu. I'm going to go ahead and leave the reins to you, Charu and Bonnie. And anybody who has a question, Bonnie, are you okay with people asking questions along the way, or would you prefer? Okay. So anybody who has a question, if you're on video, just raise your hand. And if you prefer to text your question in, or if you prefer just to raise your electronic hand, go ahead and do either. It doesn't matter. What I find typically is everyone's so mesmerized during conversations, and so we will open up some time towards the end to ask questions. Bonnie, as sometimes it's hard for people to imagine they can even talk for a full hour or 2 hours, but it does happen. So I'm going to be timekeeper, and I will make sure that I let you know at least 20 minutes before the end, and then we will open it up to questions if we haven't done so. Okay? Thank you. Off to you, Charu and Bonnie.
Thank you. I'm so happy to see all these amazing people. Actually, my mother is here. That's really nice. Hi, Mom. And today is one of my favorite people is here, Bonnie Sharf. Bonnie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be here. I've been
You're
really
like
looking
a
forward to it.
Yeah, you're like a heroine for me. I feel like you're a living example of what's possible if you change. And I want to get right into it. And I have a little bit of a structure just so you know what's going to happen. So we have a lot of time, but I thought it would be really nice to get deep into your story, the healing journey for the first half. And then we take all your questions, audience, whatever you want to know about things that are not working in your healing journey or something from Bonnie about other related topics. And then we dive into what has happened so far post 2021 after Bonnie shared her testimonial, because her life has just expanded and become even bigger and more colorful. So that's the plan. All good?
It sounds wonderful.
All right, let's get to it.
Mhm.
Okay, so for those of you who are new to Bonnie's story, Bonnie was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré initially, which then became a really technical term, Bonnie, that I'm not thinking of right now. CIDP, is that correct?
Yes, it stands for chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy, which is a mouthful,
It
but I've
is.
said it so many times, so it just flows.
Yes. And that left you with doctors
Yeah,
saying you would be paralyzed, not be able to walk. You were a completely normal person living your beautiful life. You were a health coach, 52 at the
yes,
time.
yes.
And so this comes out of nowhere in your
Mhm.
world. I want you to go back in that moment. Tell us when you first noticed that your legs weren't responding.
Mhm.
What did you feel emotionally and what happened?
Yeah, well, first, thank you so much, Sharu. I wanted to say for allowing me this opportunity to share. And first, I was 52 and I was already a health coach. I had none of this in my family, so I never, ever expected to go through anything like this. But all of a sudden, I just started noticing my feet were cold a lot. They were cold pretty frequently, and I didn't understand it because it was not normal for me. And I just thought, that's strange. I should really get that checked out. But I didn't have a primary doctor at the time that I liked, so I knew I had to find someone. So that took some time. But then in the meantime, I started noticing my legs feeling stiff when I was walking and heavy. And it was so bizarre because I usually have very strong legs and my muscles in my legs are large. In fact, that's something I used to judge about myself because my legs were big. And then when I was walking, I started noticing that it took effort to lift my legs up and it just didn't feel normal. I wasn't, and then I started noticing I wasn't able to walk straight, like I was off balance and I was like kind of weaving when I was walking. And then I did find a doctor and scheduled an appointment. And while I was waiting for the appointment, I noticed that I was losing my balance. That I actually was in my closet the night before the appointment and I bent down to pick something up from the floor. And when I tried to stand up, I fell. And I was like, what is going on? This was crazy. And then the day of the doctor appointment, I stood with just a couple of people just standing still talking, and I had to hold on to one of them. I felt like I was about to fall, even when I wasn't moving. So I knew something was really weird and very strange. And when I went to the doctor, he, after testing me and having me walk, and saw I couldn't walk a straight line, and then he had me crunched down and asked me to stand up, and I couldn't. He then diagnosed me with Guillain-Barré, and he said, "You need to get to the emergency room right now." So I did, and they did all the testing, and they admitted me. I tested positive for Guillain-Barré, and that's what they diagnosed me with. But then after I kept relapsing. So every time when I was in the hospital that first time, it was actually the first day, I went to go use the bathroom. And when I went to stand up, I fell. And a nurse had to come in and help me up. And from that point forward, they labeled me a fall risk. And that's where everything started to unravel. And I wound up receiving this treatment called plasmapheresis, or it's also called plasma exchange treatment, where they put a catheter in my neck and they take all the blood out of my body and they remove the plasma. Because what Guillain-Barré is an autoimmune disease where my antibodies are not recognizing the nerves in my body, and they were attacking my nerves as though they were foreign invaders. And it was causing my legs and my feet to become, it eventually caused paralysis. And so they took the plasma out of my blood because that's where the antibodies are housed. And they reinserted synthetic plasma into my body and then put all the blood back in. So it was an 11-day process. They did that treatment every other day, and it was quite scary and invasive. And I wound up going home after that 11-day treatment, And I was feeling a little bit stronger where I was able to get around, holding on to furniture. And within 3 days, I relapsed and I had to go back to the hospital again. And it got even every time I relapsed. So basically, to make a long story short, I relapsed 6 times. Every time I went home, I relapsed even worse, so that my symptoms became even worse. And there was a point of time where I wasn't even able to stand on my legs. My legs weren't strong enough to hold me. I had to be carried. And it was quite scary. I wasn't able to feel my legs or my feet. There were times I couldn't even wiggle my toes or feel my feet at all, lift my leg maybe an inch off the bed. And this is someone who was used to working out and being strong and showing other people how to stay fit and to stay healthy. And I couldn't believe it was happening to me. It was literally like a nightmare.
Yeah. And this came completely out of nowhere. So, of course, there's an element of shock. And
Mhm.
I guess, why me? Like, was that one of the thoughts
Yes, well,
that you dealt with?
initially, yeah, I was like, how could this be happening to me? I'm a health coach. I'm the one, who's taking care of myself and working out and all this stuff. And yet it was happening to me. So, being that I have had a lot of personal development, I used to go to Tony Robbins events. As a health coach, I got very involved in personal development. And so I had his voice in my head saying that everything in life that happens to you is really happening for you. So I kept saying that out loud to remind myself, this is happening for me. And so I knew that it was happening for a reason, that I was meant to learn something from this, and that at some point I was going to look back and view this as a gift. And even though it didn't feel like a gift, it felt like a nightmare, like I was being punished for something. I still kept reminding myself that no, everything that's happening is happening for me, and I'm going to stay open to see what lesson this is here to present for me, and what I know that this is happening so that I can learn a life lesson that I'm meant to learn so that I can live my greatest life. And I was right. I didn't see it right away. In fact, I didn't even know about Dr. Joe Dispenza at all, never heard of him before. And just one point, that after I kept relapsing, after 8 weeks, then they did change the diagnosis to CIDP, which then they were very clear and said, there is no cure for this. This is incurable. And you may have to decide what you are going to do in terms of the treatments or steroids, long-term steroids, which have very serious side effects, or having to continue to do plasmapheresis or IVIG. There were different options of treatments, but each one of them was very limiting. And even with them, I still wasn't walking by myself. I had to use a walker, and they did tell me that I might eventually have to be in a wheelchair. I did use a wheelchair for a while. And so it was extremely scary. And I don't remember if I answered your question. What was your last question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you did. You did. You're answering my follow-up questions also.
Oh, good. Okay.
Okay, so this is happening. Situation is getting worse. You have a family, you have sons, you have a husband.
Yes.
What's going on with that part? Because I know women, especially mothers, can be very strong. They can be very strong when it comes to protecting the family, and
Mhm.
but when it comes to your family hearing this diagnosis, it can be a really vulnerable moment.
Yeah.
And how was it like for you to
Yes.
experience that?
Thank you. Yes. Well, it definitely was a huge deal for my family because I was newly married. I had gotten married a year before that. And so this was like a totally unexpected thing. My husband at the time had 2 boys, and I already had my own 3 boys. So I was the mom of 5 boys because my 2 bonus boys had lost their mom years prior. So I was their earth mom, is what we called me. So I was literally the mom of 5 boys. However, my boys were young adults, they were in college. And my youngest son wasn't yet in college. He was still in high school, but my older two boys were in college. And then the younger two boys were at that time, I think they were like 12 and 10. So yeah, they were young. And my husband wasn't driving. I was the only driver in the house. So they depended on me to drive. So yeah, it was a huge deal because I was the one who did a lot of the family's, expectations and needs. And so now I was totally unable to do any of it. Even when I was home in the brief periods, I was in the hospital more than I was home during those 5 months. And it was from July of 19 to December of 19. I was back and forth in the hospital, more times in the hospital than I was home. So it
Wow.
was very difficult for the family. And my ex-husband, who I'm not married to anymore, and I'll share with that on the second part of this call, but he would have to ask for rides or take Uber to even get to the hospital to see me. I don't know if you want to hear the detail, like there are some details that were just really scary while I was going through everything that I was going through in the hospital. Times where I wasn't even able to use the commode, which at this point I was using the bedside commode because I wasn't able to get to the bathroom.
Yeah.
There was one time I couldn't even stand, and the hospital refused to allow their nurses to help me out of bed, even to hold me up so that I can just pivot over to the commode next to my bed because they said it was a liability in case I fell. And they weren't letting me. And so I don't know if this is TMI, but I can't use a bedpan. I just can't. My body won't release into a bedpan. So I was really stuck. And my ex-husband, I'm so grateful that he took an Uber to get to the hospital so he can pick me up and put me on the commode. But it was like so many different things like that that you just can't even imagine. It was a crazy, I never would have imagined me being in that situation.
Yeah. I mean, hats off to you. That's a lot of limitation on a very independent woman who is doing all the things that I think we usually take for granted. Um, and to become so limited. And I think you were exceptionally brave. So I'm curious, you keep talking about this knowing that you had that this is for me, this is not happening to me. Now that you look back, if you dig deep, what is that knowing? Do you have a take on it? I know you learned that from Tony Robbins, and but I think there are a lot of people who hear a lot of good stuff, but it sort of stays outside. You don't allow that. And you feel like, well, it doesn't apply to me. Do you know my situation? It's really hard, right? We often
Right.
hear that. So if anyone is listening and they have what they think is an impossible situation, what would you say? Is there that inner knowing? What's your take on it?
Yes, I definitely had a very strong connection to the divine, and that is what brought me through. Even though I wasn't very religious, I am Jewish. I was brought up Jewish, but I was never religious. I was never very good when I was in Hebrew school. I never did the homework. Like I don't know a lot about. Don't know the Bible. Like I'm not very religious, but I'm very spiritual. I've
Mm.
always felt this really deep inner connection to God since I was a child. And I've had messages come through songs and things like that. So I really felt like this divine connection. And I knew that this can't possibly be the end of my story. This is not what I came here for. So I knew that it had to be happening for a very important reason. And
Mm.
I had something else I was going to share. I'm trying to recall now what that was. It was something about the diagnosis. Oh, yeah, that they did continue to reiterate. There was one neurologist, my neurologist that was assigned to me. Every time he came into my room, he continued to I knew what to expect as soon as he walked in the room. All he was bad news. He would just continue to recite all of the fact that, again, that there's no cure, that I'm going to have to deal with this for the rest of my life, that, a lot of people get worse, and that I need to decide if I want to, I may wind up being in a wheelchair or using a walker for the rest of my life, and that I'm going to have to decide on what treatments I want to do or what medications. And he would just continue every time I spoke to him. to rattle off all of the long-term, very damaging and scary side effects. So all of that, even though it's so easy to believe doctors because they sound like they really are facts, like it's fact what they're saying, like there's no other possibility that this is the way it goes. And I remember thinking, should I get on a support group on Facebook? Because I'm someone who always loves to share my journey on Facebook. I just have always been that way, regardless of what was going on in my life, because I always have had the desire to help other people who are suffering ever since I was a child. Where, in fact, I just remembered that this morning when I thought about when I was a child, I never knew what I wanted to do for a living, but I just wanted to help people from suffering. That's all I wanted to do. And so I've always been inspired to share hard times or share insights or, even very positive, inspiring thoughts. And so during my journey, I would continue to share. And so everybody who was on my Facebook page knew what I was going through. And so I would continue to hear all of the horrific, what I should look forward to, all of the really scary stuff. So I thought maybe I should get on a support group. And as soon as I did, I immediately took myself out because it was just everybody was sharing all these other manifestations that their body experienced from CIDP. And I was afraid that if I started seeing all of these other stuff, that's what would wind up happening to me. And I didn't want to subject myself to that because the mind is so powerful.
Wow, that's amazing that you didn't do that because that's very tempting. I think something happens to us, we go to Google and then we're like, Google, tell me all the crazy shit that's going to happen to me. It's so tempting to fall in that trap. And you
Yeah.
didn't. That's amazing.
Yeah. Because everyone on that group was suffering really
Yeah.
bad. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm taking myself out of this because I'm not going to be in that energy. I'm going to be in the energy of healing. So during my second hospital stay, which was in August, I was introduced to the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza. And
Hmm.
actually was one of my Tony Robbins people from my Tony Robbins community who reached out to me because like I said, I had been sharing, so everyone knew what I was going through. And he sent me a message saying, hey, have you ever heard of this guy? And he sent me this link to a Dr. Joe interview. And I'm like, no, I never heard of him before. And so he's like, check out these interviews. He sent me two. And as soon as I heard Dr. Joe say the words that if your thoughts can make you sick, your thoughts can make you well too, that was it. I was like, okay, this is it. This is how I'm going to heal myself. And I knew from that moment, this is what I need to do.
Wow. And had you meditated before this moment at all?
I had some meditation experience. In fact, not a lot though. I had done a Deepak Chopra 9-week online program where I just dipped my toe in meditation. And so, yeah, I had a little bit, but I wasn't doing it on a regular basis at all. I just had like a little sampling of meditation. And, but
Okay.
the Dr. Joe, for me, it was so much more than just meditation alone because I wound up, and first, let me share with you my financial situation with my family was not good at all. I was the primary breadwinner, even though I wasn't being successful at all in my coaching business. I was an entrepreneur. I was, attempting to create this. Actually, I also just started an online job too, being a health coach for an app that provided coaching services for their clients. And so I just started to do that to have a regular income coming in, but I hadn't yet started. I was just in the training process of that when this happened to me. So we didn't have any real steady income coming in. So it was
Yeah.
very difficult. And I wound up using my tax refund in order to purchase the online intensive and progressive course. And I just
Wow.
submerged myself into that. I immersed myself into that course. And it was like I was back in school. I knew I wanted to learn everything about doing this work.
Yeah, I can relate to that. That's how I got into. I just studied it like I was like doing my PhD thesis in Joe Dispenza's work. So, okay, so you're doing the course, you're building the model. What were those first meditations like? Or do you even remember what was your first meditation? How bad was it? How good was it?
Yeah, well, yeah, I was only doing the meditations that were part of the online course. So it was reconditioning the body to a new mind, tuning into new potentials, Tech 1, and the generous present moment. That was it. So I would be introduced to each one as the course continued, and then I would just keep repeating those meditations. But I knew that, I wasn't doing it great because I still had the monkey mind constantly coming in, and I was just doing my best to keep bringing myself to the present moment. But then, even when I wasn't in meditation, I was. That's where the real work was. It wasn't just, I mean, it was mostly not when I was in meditation. Meditation is a great tool, but even more importantly, and this is what I share with all of my overcomers, which is what I call my clients, that outside of the meditation is really the most important part when we're in our everyday life with our eyes open, is becoming aware of the program, becoming aware of the conditioning that we've been believing about ourselves and reacting to in our lives.
Yeah, that is true. But like, is this an understanding that you have built now after so many years, or were you able to even access this understanding even then
No,
when
I
you had just
accessed it
started?
then. I accessed it. And that's because I kept hearing Dr. Joe and I was writing notes. And I remember, I have the notebook somewhere, but I remember underlining a million times, underlining, stay present. Stay present was the key. And then
Yeah.
also, my motto, my personal motto that helped see me through was faith over fear. Because every
Mm.
moment that we are all experiencing fear, which is our what our conditioning has been to live this life experience constantly worrying about what I have to protect myself from or what I have to do in order to stay safe, in order to achieve what I want, in order to have the things that are going to make me feel safe in life, because that's what one of my biggest one of my biggest underlying programs was that I didn't feel safe in my life, and
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of it. So as
Mm.
I continued to stay present when my eyes were open, that's my biggest, message to everyone, that that's the most important part of doing this work, is bringing yourself to present and practicing presence when you're not meditating, because that's when I started to realize the program that was
Yeah.
keeping me stuck. Hmm.
And how did you deal with the fear of it getting worse? Like when you're meditating, you're being really present, but then, your thoughts kind of take over, or your family comes over and they are fearing something for you, and then they project it on you, not
Yeah.
with bad intentions, but just because they're mad worried for you. How did you deal with those moments where you have to like stand your ground
Yes.
inside?
Oh, I could just rattle off so many different examples of that. And what you just said was so on point, because one of the examples is my mom. Oh my gosh, my mom and my stepdad, God rest his soul, he just passed away. He was more like a dad to me than a stepdad. He was I call him my second dad. They were at the hospital every single day, every time that I was in
Mm.
the hospital. And there were times I was there for 2 weeks at a time. And when I would come back to the hospital, all the nurses remembered me and they'd be like, she's back. So I started making friends with the nurses. I still keep in touch with some of them. But every time my mom and my stepdad would come to the hospital, my mom would, because she was so worried about me, and she heard the doctors and heard other people saying that there was no cure. And she thought this was going to be my life. I could see it in her eyes. She was filled with worry and fear. And that did it. In fact, I'm going to get emotional right now, just imagining she would come to my bedside and look at me with these eyes filled with tears. And that would cause me to then feel fear. And so I would immediately recognize that I need to get back into my faith And so as soon as she left the room, I would stay strong for her and say, Mom, it's okay. I'm going to heal myself, without crying.
Mm.
I would say to her, it's okay, Mom. I'm going to heal myself. This is not forever. And as soon as she left the room, I would then put on the workshop to get myself
Mm.
back into the knowing that this is what I'm doing. I'm going to heal. I don't have to let other people, even though it wasn't intentional, of course, I don't have to let my mom's fear transcend onto me. I don't have to believe
Ugh,
that.
that's it though. Like you can't let anyone else write your story.
Right.
And this is that moment. I think also something really important that I remind myself of all the time is that you don't have to be afraid of these emotions that are very human: fear, anxiety, dread, despair, hopelessness, all
Mhm.
of it. If you can feel it and then change your energy the moment after, you've done your work. Don't run away from either part. And I think that's what you said. I felt
Mhm.
it, and then I had come back to the moment and said, well, we're going to change it because we're going to write our own story. And I think that
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
shows in the results.
Yes. And the thing is, I know that it's not easy to remember in that
Yeah.
moment because
Yeah.
the symptoms or the diagnosis or the doctor's visits, whatever it is, or the mind that's feeding you, you know, when symptoms happen and you start to recognize that your mind is coming to the place of, oh, this must mean that I'm not healing, or maybe it's not possible for me, or I feel like it's getting worse. And then we start to go into that fearful state. We're not aware that we have a choice in that moment. We get taken over by those emotions. So it's the awareness that has to happen first, the bringing yourself to that awareness that, wait a second, I have a choice. So that's where it shifted for me. Every time I start to notice, when the doctor came into my room, at first I was listening to what he was saying, and as soon as he left the room, I would then go back to my meditation or my program in order to bring myself back. But I was so aware whenever I started shifting into a fearful state, which of course is the human condition and normal. So don't ever judge yourselves if you start to realize that you have been living in fear. That's okay. Now, as soon as you become aware that you do have a choice, then give yourself a pat on the back because that means that you're making progress and you're becoming more awakened to the fact that this doesn't have to be my story. I don't have to believe what the doctor said. And then if you saw my testimonial, then you'll know that eventually, every time this one doctor came into the room, I literally didn't listen to a word he said. Like I would go be like this, womp, 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 in my mind. And I didn't even pay attention to anything. I would just be like going like this, nodding my head, but not even hearing a word. I'd be like, don't
You were
listen to him.
guarding your
Yes,
Yeah, you were guarding your most precious resource, your attention.
that's right. That's right. And I just kept
Amazing.
talking to myself, saying, you don't have to listen to him. Don't pay attention to anything he's saying. Just tune him out.
Wow. So then you're here, you're making as many of life choices without submitting to fear. You're not listening to the stories other people have. You're
Mhm.
meditating, you're doing everything.
Mhm.
I know from your testimonial, there wasn't immediate evidence in your external environment that something is
Right.
changing, but there
Right.
was a moment where things moved. What was that moment? Do you remember it? And was there a single moment or a series of moments that you can now look back and say, oh my God, change was happening? I just couldn't connect the dots then.
Well, there wasn't one moment. I continued to relapse for those 5 months and get worse and worse. And again, there were so many moments that could have just taken me out and had me identify with that condition. If you'd like, I can share some, but it was just, moments where it made me feel like, is this really me? Like this doesn't, this it can't be me. Where I'm literally home by myself, and my bedroom is like just footsteps away from my side of the bed. So I would, manage to get myself to the bathroom by holding on to things. And then one time when I was coming back to the bed, my legs were not strong enough to get up on the bed, to lift up, to get onto the bed. And my upper body strength wasn't strong enough either to pull me up. I was literally hanging on the bed, and my phone was an inch away from my hands that I couldn't reach it. And I felt myself sliding off the bed, and I landed on the floor. And I sat there without a phone, without any way to communicate with anyone for about an hour and a half until my ex-husband came home. And so, like, those are the types of moments that left me like, oh my gosh, this is really happening. Like, it feels like a dream, like a nightmare. But yeah, so I wound up realizing that each time that I was relapsing, I didn't let that mean that I wasn't healing or that this wasn't going to work for me. I just kept reminding myself that it's all a journey. I'm still continuing to do the work. I would say to myself, I'm already healed in the quantum. I would imagine myself already healed, and just my body needs to catch up. That's what I would say. I'm already healed. My body just needs to catch up. And one time, a good friend of mine had given me the advice to take a sitz bath, not a sitz bath, a Epsom salt bath, Epsom salt. And so I filled the bathtub with hot water and Epsom salt. And this was right after I got home, because normally after the plasmapheresis, my legs were stronger than they were before, where I was able to walk without the walker and just holding onto furniture. But this time I had just gotten home from the plasmapheresis, and they still weren't strong enough to walk around. And I was like, why is this happening? Normally after the plasmapheresis, they're better than this. So my friend said, try a Epsom salt bath. So I listened to her and I took this bath. The next day, I knew I had to go back. I was relapsing. And the way that I knew I was relapsing, the telltale sign was whenever it was the test that I did when I wasn't able to stand on my tippy toes. I couldn't lift my heels off the ground. I couldn't lift my heels up at all. And when I couldn't do that, even a little bit, that's when I knew I was relapsing. So I had messaged my doctor at that moment, and he's like, you're going to have to go back to the hospital. Now, this is just like 2 days after I got home. And I just started, of course, it's emotional because, again, now I have to go through it all again. Each time I go back, I had to have a catheter put in my neck. And that was something that caused me such anxiety because I really couldn't stand that procedure. I wound up asking them for a sedative or something because I was so anxious about having that done each time I went in. And so I started crying when he said, you have to go back. And so I let myself cry. I let the tears out. It's so important to allow yourself to feel the emotions without trying to hold it in together or hold it, back. And then after I let the tears out, then I accepted it and I said, okay, let's do it. And I was ready. And I got, it was a mental shift that I had to get myself ready to have to go back again. And it was just a crazy experience. But when I did heal, it was after, in January, the last time I got out of the hospital was December 23rd. It was right before Christmas. And in January is when I started receiving IVIG at home. Now, that is just a Band-Aid. IVIG is just having someone else's antibodies inserted into my blood, into my body. And, antibodies are always changing, so that doesn't last. It's just supposed to be done once a month to just kind of keep me going. And so that was a traumatic experience because the nurses that came to the home didn't know how to do an IV very well. And I have PTSD now when it comes to having an IV put in me, because I had some really horrible experiences, really horrible, where some nurses came and they kept trying to stick me, and it was horrifying. I actually wound up sending one nurse home, and I didn't have the treatment because I said, my soul was screaming, do not let her near you. again.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
wound up just telling her, I'm done. You can't come
Yeah.
near me. And she left, and I didn't have the treatment. And then that caused me to relapse again. So it was just when I started, I didn't have to go back to the hospital though from January forward. And then it was gradual. When I started feeling myself getting better, it was
Hmm.
because I decided I was doing physical therapy in my home. I had someone come to the home, and it was horrifying. Like I couldn't balance at all. I had no balance. Like if I had to hold on to something, even if I just lifted one leg off the ground, I couldn't balance myself, and I wasn't able to bend my legs. So I was doing that physical therapy, which was, it showed me just how different I was from who I used to be, because I used to be like really fit. And then I started going to outpatient physical therapy. And in fact, talk about full circle, the gym I go to now is the same building as the physical therapy that I used to go to, and it's now under private ownership, and it's a gym. And that's where I go now to train with a personal trainer. But when I go there, it's like I could literally be taken from that today's day 6 years ago into that same building, and me have this memory of being in that same spot, not being able to walk. And now I'm doing
Hmm.
it all again. So it's just, it feels like so full circle. But in any case, I wasn't able to do much at all when I was at physical therapy. And then at home, I stopped going to physical therapy. And at home, I started doing my old workouts, my beach body. I used to be a beach body coach, and I started doing those workouts. And I wasn't able to do any like lunges or bend my legs. Like I could bend my knee like this much. But over time, I started noticing that I was able to bend lower and lower and lower. And that's how I knew I was healing, because I started being able to do more and more. I started being able to balance a little bit more. And then by June, I decided, you know what? I'm not doing IVIG anymore. I'm done. I don't need it. And this is how I know that I'm healed, is when I stop treatments and I continue to be my normal self. And so I stopped treatments with before I even went to the doctor, but then I did go to him in July, and I said, I'm not doing the treatments anymore. And he said, let me evaluate you. And he did his whole evaluation, and he said, you know what? There's no clinical reason why you need to continue the medication, continue the treatments. And I literally burst into tears in the parking lot. I was like, I am
Wow.
so grateful. Yeah. So that's when I knew I had
Wow.
healed.
Wow. Okay. So then the moment that you speak about in the testimonial, there was a moment where you were describing it really beautifully, that you were like in the hospital and you were doing your meditations and you were just feeling crying tears of gratitude. And I was really moved by that because I think that's really hard to do. So that must have been before this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. This was when I
Yeah.
was still back and forth in the hospital, when I wasn't able to feel my legs or my feet or wiggle my toes. I literally, this was during the hardest time, was when I was doing the work. I was just immersing myself every moment that I wasn't busy with doctors or tests or blood work or visitors. All I did, like the TV in my room was never on. I didn't watch one single thing. All I did was watch on my phone at the workshop and do the meditations. And so yeah, I there was periods of time where I was so connected to the fact that I knew I was healed, that I was so connected to that possibility, that potential in the quantum, that I felt like it was real, and I knew it was real. And I felt that emotion so strongly that I was crying tears of joy, of gratitude, even though I was still lying in my hospital bed, unable to walk, unassisted. I was crying tears of joy for my healing, because I knew that was coming.
Hmm. So break it down for somebody who's listening, who is feeling like they don't know how to tune into gratitude for something they don't already have.
Yeah. And that's very common too. So, if that's the case for you, don't feel bad about that. It just means that this is the journey. This is the journey for you, that as soon as you're aware, and you don't have to expect yourself to feel exactly the same way that I did. All of our journeys are completely different. We all have different lessons that we need to learn. And my belief is that it's all about changing our own self-perception. So when you recognize that this is here for you, this whatever challenge it is that you're facing in your life is here for you. That's the only reason it's here. It's not to punish you. It's not because you did something wrong or you're not good enough or anything like that. It's here for you in order to discover your power and become aware of your conditioned program so you don't continue to believe it by disidentifying from the mind. But when you recognize that you're judging yourself because you're not, you know, doing what I did or doing what someone else did, or doing the things that you or experiencing the things that you think you need to experience in order to heal, you need to let go of that thought because that's not true. And instead recognize that we are all different. And the more that you are present and aware when the thoughts come in that cause you to feel any sort of judgment or resistance or any kind of feelings of not good enough or identifying with your illness, those are the times to bring yourself to presence. That's what they're here for, so that you can discover a different way. From presence is where we're separate now from those thoughts. We're no longer identifying with those thoughts. We're not immediately accepting and believing that they're true. So by bringing yourself to presence, each and every time you recognize that you're feeling a low vibration emotion, which like Charu, like you said, anything that doesn't feel good, whether it be fear, resentment, guilt, jealousy, envy, blame, not good enough, like a victim, anything that doesn't feel good, anger, anxiety, all of that is a low vibration emotion. And whenever you're feeling that, that's your cue to go within, to bring yourself to presence. And from presence, you now have created space between you, your consciousness, and those thoughts. And from there, you can choose something else. Now, I do believe that it's not just about shifting our perspective. It's not just about I'm going to just change. Well, not, I shouldn't say that. I'm going to retract that statement. I meant to say it's not about just shifting our focus. It's not just changing to think about something that feels good. Even though I feel fear, I'm going to just change my attention to put it on this beautiful day that we're having, or put it on that my family is so wonderful and I'm so grateful for them, because the low vibration emotions are coming up for a reason. It's normally because there's some kind of reaction that we're perceiving the situation as being something that it really isn't. So that's when we can use that low vibration emotion to become aware of the program, to become aware of the underlying belief that's causing that low vibration emotion. So when we have that awareness that I'm in the low vibration emotion, what belief must be true in order for this belief that this thought is true to really be true? So if I have this reaction to my symptoms because my thoughts are telling me that this means that I'm not getting better, that's where I can then say to myself, well, what does that mean? That means I must believe that just because I have symptoms, that means I'm not healing. And that doesn't have to be true. So by bringing yourself to presence, then you can choose something different. I'm not going to believe that anymore. Just because I have symptoms, it doesn't mean that I'm not healing. It just means that it's an opportunity for me to practice raising my consciousness so that I can choose something different, so that I can respond to it differently. So I hope that answers your
Yeah, that
question.
was beautiful. You got a lot of claps there. I think
Okay,
that
good.
resonated with a lot of people. I love all the you're getting a lot of love for your
Oh, thank
words and
you.
expression. I would love to open it up for questions if anybody wants to just unmute and go for it. Bonnie is like on a roll.
Yeah, Farzana?
That was so profound and beautiful. I do want to just, I have a comment and then a question. Just because you and I have walked much of a similar path, I really felt that deep resonance. And one thing that struck me in my healing journey that I hear in you is when the inner voice becomes louder than the outer voice, you know you're on to something. And
Yeah.
we heard that with Dr. Joe, right? Dr. Joe said that all the specialists were giving him best case, worst case scenario, and they were both terrible. And he just knew that the power that made this body is going to heal this body was that inner voice.
Hmm.
Um, and you spoke of such vulnerable experiences with so much strength and dignity. And that's what Dr. Joe calls wisdom. And that creates the best sort of environment for your health coaching. I think you're still a health coach or you're a coach of some sort. And that experience, that direct experience, just creates such a warm and loving space, I'm sure, for your clients. Um, I did want to just touch on something that you said. Dr. Joe, in his course, does say, if your thoughts can make you sick, then your thoughts can make you well. And we know this to be true because it's all about the thoughts and the beliefs, right? And
Hmm.
it's so easy, or people might have a tendency to hear that and think, oh, so I'm at fault for my illness. So there's
Mm.
this difference between fault and responsibility. And
Yes.
when we are accepting fault, when we see that statement as, okay, I'm at fault, then that holds with it guilt and shame and all of those sort of low vibrations that can pull you back down.
Hmm.
Versus if we see, oh, okay, this just means that if I'm responsible for all of this stuff that's happening to me, then I'm responsible for overcoming it as well by changing my thoughts and beliefs.
Hmm.
And that is connected to like I'm reading my notes because I was writing as you were talking. That
Hmm.
goes with it, acceptance and courage, willingness to be open and aware to those thoughts that are coming up. And you said it so beautifully that like when you have the low vibration thought that comes up, or the fault or the blame or the guilt or the shame thought that comes up, it's
Hmm.
nothing to be resistant towards. It's our teacher.
Yeah.
But we want to become aware of that thought to say, oh, that's interesting. Okay, but that's taking me this way and I want to go this way. So, what are the thoughts that I can reshift? And you said it so beautifully. It's not about sort of pushing them away or repelling them or just automatically flipping to a positive thought. It's
Right.
about the beauty of that middle ground. The thought has come up. I accept it. I acknowledge it. I realize how that vibration has got me to where I am. And now, lovingly, I choose this thought. So you said it so brilliantly, and I'm so happy that you were able to capture that. And I just wanted to articulate that as well. This whole thing about the fault versus responsibility. When we move into that, and that's with everything, right? Not just health, it's prosperity, it's relationships, it's everything. When we choose the energy of the being responsible for a better outcome, that's very empowering. It's a very different energetic resonance. So thank you so much. I've just really, really taken in everything you've said. So I just wanted to make that one comment. There was really no question there, unless you want to tease that out anymore about the fault versus responsibility.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Rosanna. I really appreciate that affirmation. Thank you. And the one thing I will say about that is that it's so true that it's all about perspective. Some people do take that as, oh, that must mean it's my fault that I'm sick. I did this to myself, and start to go down this whole rabbit hole of judging themselves. And yet, that's only one perspective. We can then instead choose to view it as, how freaking exciting is this? This means that I have the power to change my thoughts, which means I have the power to heal. So before I found that out, it's easy to feel helpless. It's so easy to feel powerless when the doctors are taking that power away from you and saying, nope, all autoimmune diseases, your body attacking itself, and there's no cure. There's nothing you can do about it. And that leaves us feeling like this victim, like I have no say of what happens to the rest of my life. I just have to be sitting here like this helpless victim and just hope and pray that something changes, but there's nothing I can do about it. And by becoming aware that no, that's not true, that I do have something I can do about it, that I am the one who chooses my thoughts, and I do have the ability to change who I'm being so that I can change my thoughts and heal myself, then that gives us all the power in the world. And it takes us out of that victim mindset and that helplessness emotion, and instead puts us in the driver's seat of our life. So thank you for saying that, Prasanna.
Yeah, beautiful question too. But right on the back of that question, there is a question in the chat, and then we'll go to the both the Sanjanas. So I'm just going to read it out because it's a recording. It says, "Hi, Bonnie. First of all, I want to thank you for your testimonials, especially the videos you shared on your YouTube page, giving more details about your healing journey. They really helped me a lot. My question pertains to shame around one's health condition." That's a great question. "And moving past how other people perceive you, or rather your perception of how they perceive you. My body is experiencing vision difficulties, and I have struggled with a lot of embarrassment and shame around my need for assistance, especially in public places or at work. You had mentioned in one of your videos that one turning point for you was getting beyond the helplessness and thinking about how others saw you. Could you explain more in detail what helped you get through that? Are there any specific practices or habits that you could recommend for me?" This is Pia's question from the India group.
Yes, beautiful. And thank you so much for watching my YouTube videos. I'm so excited that you are seeing them because I am getting better. I'm getting more frequent at publishing them. So I love to hear that someone's here that has seen them. So as far as your question, what a beautiful question that is, because I have a lot of my overcomers that have experienced that as well as myself. And so it's a very common part of this journey. And the reason why it's so important to acknowledge this question is because this, I believe, is actually one of the biggest lessons that is presented for us, to let go of the impact that our perceived judgment of others have on who we're being in our life. Because that's part of the reason why this emotional state keeps us living in fight or flight, because we're not able to be who we really are in our lives, even before the health challenge. Even before my health challenge, I remember keeping myself small because I was afraid of judgment and always wondering, I wonder how I'm going to look or how I'm going to sound when I speak, and keeping myself constantly judging myself and wondering how others are viewing me. And with that, it keeps you living in your mind. And so having a health challenge is such a perfect way to practice transcending that part of who we've been being. So it doesn't even have to only be about health challenge, but I know especially I have one of my overcomers who had a really hard time letting go of his perception of what other people view him with regard to the way that he walks, because his diagnosis is MS and his walking was not normal, and he was constantly in a state of fear of what other people were thinking of him. So when you look at this situation as this is happening for you in order to practice letting go of what other people think, letting go of judgment, of caring about what other people think. It doesn't mean that it's true, and it doesn't even mean that they're actually thinking that. So what I ask my overcomers to do is to, every time you're aware that you're fearful about others' perceptions of you, to bring yourself to presence, because that's always the answer. From there, you're separating yourself from identifying with that fear, with that thought, with that belief that it matters what other people think. And instead, let yourself feel almost like a high of being someone who doesn't care about what other people think. Letting go of that importance, letting go of the attachment to needing other people to approve, or needing to know that other people aren't pitying you, or other people aren't, viewing you in a way that makes you feel a self-pity. And instead, practice using those experiences to raise your consciousness and become a new version of yourself. Because when you do it, using this as practice, then even when you heal yourself, that's going to be a very different life experience. You're going to be free because you practiced during your health challenge that you don't care about what other people think. It doesn't matter. You're being who you are, and not everyone has to like you, and not everyone has to approve of you, and not everyone has to view you in the way that you want them to, right? Just being you and being proud of you for no longer caring, letting go of that attachment, and reminding, maybe even come up with a mantra such as, I'm amazing no matter what my body looks like, no matter what my vision is like, no matter how my body is responding or acting, no matter how well I can see, or whether I need to wear special glasses, or whether I need to squint or get close to something. I do what's right for me. And it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, because the people who are in alignment with my greatest path aren't going to be judging me. And everybody else, good riddance. I'm not interested in, those people being in my life. I only want to attract. So it's actually a great way to
Yeah.
wean out people that you don't even want in your life, right?
Yes.
May I-
I'm
Amazing.
sorry, I have to
And
open up my door because my dog is scratching. And
yes, please
he's
do.
very persistent. Okay.
may
If I
I?
may add,
Yeah.
sorry, who is
No,
this
go. That was
person?
me, Charu, but go ahead. I also wanted to offer
Okay.
one quick perspective, but please go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say I've dealt with shame a lot. And when I was looking into it, something that had made a real difference for me was Brene Brown's writing on shame.
Mm.
And one of the things I understood about shame is, how does shame get its power? Shame gets its power by making you hide and keeping things secret. Shame can only have power if you are hiding and keeping things secret. How does it lose its power? When you have the courage to go and tell somebody you trust, I feel really ashamed about this, or this fills me with shame. This really works. Even just the fact that you've sent this question, Pia, and we're discussing it, this is going to make a major dent in the shame that you feel. One. And two, she talks about something called shame resilience, which is really simple, which is just recognizing that you feel shame, which you're doing right now with this question, understanding that shame is a universal emotion, right? Everybody feels it all the time. And number three, um, choosing the frequency of authenticity always. So, whatever condition you have, whatever health issue, whatever, blah, 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 you, by being you, like Bonnie's saying, and not caring about others, you're being authentic. That's a very high frequency emotion. I think that's like right up there with love and gratitude, because you're being you and you're divine. So that's my 2 cents.
Yes, very true, Sharu. Beautifully said.
May I also just jump in with another perspective, and that is that there are days where I will go out looking for my heart to open up, looking for opportunities to serve others and to feel a level of compassion. And the people that might be in your path and they might want to be there to support you and serve you in what you are going through, because they are likely going through something in their own life, and to be able to serve someone who needs the assistance that you do, maybe right now, just temporarily on your path, is an opportunity. So you can also see that while you're in this transition period between where you are and where you want to be, it's an opportunity for others to learn something from your path and to serve you. So just from my perspective, I'm always grateful when I have those opportunities. I truly am. And I say that from the depth of my heart. So another perspective for you.
Beautiful.
Very good. Sanjana, one of you has to just take it and go with it, because we have two of you.
So Sanjana, you go ahead first. You raised your hand first, so you can say.
All
I'll
right,
be
thank you
the
so
second.
much. Bonnie, what an inspiring woman you are. Oh my God. I got goosebumps when you narrated your story and how you were trying to stay greater than the environment. That takes a lot of courage, honestly, because day in and day out, we are constantly exposed to environmental triggers that tempts us back to, be in the identity of our older version. And it's something even I struggle with. So I think that leads me to actually two questions that I have for you. Is that, did you chase any kind of perfectionism during your meditation? Because as newbies or people who are early on in this practice, they might wonder if they're doing the meditation correctly. Your mind keeps, thinking about something else and not the kind of reality that you want to create. So, what was your journey like? Did you chase any kind of perfectionism, or did it look different for you? And the second question is, I think this is the fear that I have been dealing with, is that um, the fear of being stuck in a loop of trying to stay greater than my environment and just seeing synchronicities outside in my environment, but not actually experiencing the desired reality fully. Sometimes I feel like this is just it. This is going to be my life. No matter how much I meditate, no matter how much I try to rewire my thoughts, or, see from a different perspective, try different modalities. It's just me who's going to change from within, but nothing outside of my immediate reality is going to change. So,
Mm.
yeah, I'd love to hear your perspectives on this.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to repeat the first question again because I started following your second. Can you ask them individually?
Of course, yeah, yeah, sure. So, did you chase any kind of perfectionism during your
Perfectionism.
meditation?
So I didn't, I know so many people do, and a lot of my clients do. However, I have to say that I never really had that issue because I always share with people that we aren't supposed to know how to keep ourselves present and to not follow our thoughts because we've been trained since we were born to identify with our thoughts. I remember
Mm,
being a child and saying out loud, because I've always been a deep thinker. And I was always about, I recognized I used to try to train my mind when I was a child. And
mm,
I remember saying out loud, I am my thoughts. And now it's so funny because that's the whole reason why I feel like this health challenge or all challenge is here to show us that we aren't our thoughts. And so even though, yes, I did also continue, and I still do sometimes during meditation, follow thoughts, and I have insights. I have new downloads during meditation that could be considered thoughts, and I could judge myself for it. But
mm.
instead, I gently and compassionately recognize, okay, I was thinking about this. I'm just going to bring myself back to presence now. And instead of judging myself, knowing that this is all part of it, that's why it's called practice. It's a meditation practice because we've all been conditioned to identify and to follow and live. Most people live in their minds, are constantly one thought after another, and are never even
Yeah.
present in their life. So, who am I to say or to think that I'm supposed to be perfect when this is what I've been conditioned to do my whole life? So, but many people do have that issue where they feel like I'm not doing it right, I'm not good at this, and they just quit even trying or even doing it because they think that it's not for them or that they're bad at it. And none of
Yeah.
that's true because the more that we do it and the more that we practice not judging ourselves and just gently bringing our attention back when we're
Mm.
aware that we started following thought, that's building that muscle. Instead of judging for it, we should be patting ourselves on the back for it because that's how we strengthen the muscle and make it even stronger. I
Oh,
hope that
wonderful.
answers.
Lovely. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, good.
Um, if that's okay, it's just the second part. The second question. It's that being the fear of being stuck in the loop of trying to be greater than my environment or changing my inner world and only seeing synchronicities of my desired reality, but not experiencing it in full. So, like, I have this fear of just being stuck in that zone. So,
Mm,
I would
yes.
love to hear your thoughts on this fear
Okay.
and how to
Yes.
overcome that.
Absolutely. And again, it's all normal. It's all common. This is what our human nature has been designed to do is always be, constantly analyzing and
Yeah.
fearing that we're not doing it right or we're not able to do it the way that it's going to actually transcend into a change in our body, in our life. And yet it's the fear that's presenting itself so that you can then become once, and I always talk about that it's raising our consciousness is the reason for success in doing this work is because we have to raise our consciousness first. like Dr. Joe says, like Albert Einstein said, we cannot change the problem from the same level of mind as the one that created it. So I actually I coined the term consciousness captivity as the reason, the root cause for everybody, regardless of diagnosis, regardless of what the challenge is. That's the root cause for all of it, because we have to first raise our consciousness in order to change our perspective. When we change our perspective, that's when everything changes. So when you are fearing that you're in this loop and that you're seeing synchronicities, but you're not really embodying the changes,
Yeah.
letting go of that fear and continuing to remind yourself that that's not true. I don't have to believe that. What if I just relaxed into the knowing that these synchronicities are evidence? These are signs and messages from the divine showing me that I'm on the right track. And I don't have to keep judging myself. I don't need to keep holding myself up to these expectations of thinking, well, I'm supposed to be someplace else than where I'm at. And instead relax into the knowing that that means I'm doing it right. I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. How does
That's
that
a
feel?
lovely perspective. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that, Bonnie.
You're so welcome. Thank you for
Great
asking.
question, Sanjana.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you so much. And I must,
Sanjana, go ahead.
kudos to you, Bonnie, that
Thank you,
you cured,
Sajjad.
you healed yourself, I would say. I'll not say that you cured yourself, but you brought yourself in this healing process so forward that you've dealt with your illness, whatever it was. So I'm living with muscular dystrophy, which is a progressive genetic disorder. And in my family, we've been three of us who were suffering from the same. And we are kind of running a rehabilitation center in India, which, every day takes around more than 7 to 8 people coming in. And we do all types of rehabilitations. And whatever you are saying today, we have uh, reversed the things, what doctors say in the books, what has already been written in the books. And I've been experiencing the same. And I completely believe what you've said just now. My question is that being a genetic disorder, and we've seen thousands of cases where we've seen this problem. And first thing I would like to ask you, as you lived with it for 5, 6 months, and then it started healing. So, how long did you take to completely come out of it? One. And second is, again, I would like to ask the same thing with what Sanjana asked, that sometimes we feel that because, so many questions come to us. And I feel that because I met you through Ikshit met me yesterday and he shared your video with me. I went through it last night and then today I am here. Every day, so many claimants, they come to us and they say that we can do this, we can do that. And I generally, I don't even see the videos so many times. But this kind of attracted me. And I'm here because I think now the time has come that this healing will come to me now. So I want to ask you again that this disbelief when it comes to us, so many times we get distracted and we feel that, no, this cannot happen to me. Again, how to, being genetic disorder, how to deal with it in such a way that we overcome it. Not, it's not about only me, but it's about the whole community, I would say.
Beautiful questions, Sanjana. Thank you. So first, let me share with you that before I even answer questions about how long it took me and all of that, or what meditation I used and all, because these are some of the most common questions I get, I always preface it by saying, please don't compare because all of our journeys are so different and
Yes.
it manifests very different based upon what we need. And so it did take me one full year. So from the time that I was diagnosed, which was July of 2019, and then from the time that I was given the full clearance of, even though I was already stopping the IVIG, I was given the clearance to stop. That was 1 year later. And as far as your question, First, I want to just, as a coach, I listen very carefully to the words that's being used. And I heard you saying that the diagnosis that you have is progressive and genetic. And I just want you to know that it's important not to believe that,
Okay.
not to identify with it. And it's also really important to watch how you're thinking and the words that you're using, because by saying that you have this disease that's progressive, it's continuing that belief in your body and in your mind. And so this whole journey is about changing our beliefs and taking our power back from the mind. And so you no longer have to believe. I do believe in possibility, regardless of whether it's genetic or not. I do believe in possibility. I believe in miracles. I believe that we are divine. We are divine. We're childs of God. So we have the power to create. And this is the whole journey, is letting go of that mind's limiting conditioning, that limiting belief that tells you that you might not be enough, or your diagnosis is labeled progressive or genetic, or whatever it is that might mean to you that it's impossible or it's even more difficult. And even those of you that don't have that label, but that might be saying to yourselves, oh, well, I've been dealing with this for so many years, so that must mean that I'm less likely to heal. Or I have this particular diagnosis, so that must mean that I'm less likely to heal. There's all of these belief systems that are going on inside of us that keep us limited and keep us from seeing ourselves. And this is why I really focus on our self-perception. When you change your self-perception as being limited and being reliant on all of these beliefs or all of these things outside of you, then you take your power back and you recognize that I'm the child of God. I can create anything. I can create miracles. There's nothing I can't do. Of course I can heal. So letting go of any of the mindset or any of the beliefs, any of the words that are not in alignment with that, and instead start viewing yourself as being powerful beyond measure, as being able to create miracles because you are. Does that help?
Great.
Wow, so
Great.
sweet.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Amazing. That was a great response. We have a lot of questions. I want to move through them so nobody misses out. But Srileka, do you wanna just
Yeah,
unmute
yeah,
yourself? Okay.
yeah, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi,
Hi,
Sri.
Bonnie. Hi,
Hi.
Bonnie. Hi, hi, hi. My God, I'm so excited to be talking to you.
I'm
So
glad
I'll
you're
just
here.
make this very quick because a lot of people who want to ask you questions. So Bonnie, this is one question is that, see, I'm actually going through a neuropathy in my feet. So it's almost been a year, and I've started doing Dr. Joe's work for the last 7 months. I meditate every day, 3 times a day, and I'm going to Denver this April for the retreat, okay, for 7 days. But my question, the most important thing I want to ask you today is that I don't have a very supporting family.
Mm.
Yeah. Um, so it's very difficult for me because, like he says, to overcome the environment. So while I'm in my room, it's very easy for me. But once when I get out, it triggers me because it's yeah, I don't really have a very supporting husband, and I feel very, very unsupported. And I've tried going out and going out of station, doing my meditations, coming back, but I come back and face the same triggers. So it gets very difficult and it's very trying for me.
Yeah.
And then I collapse sometimes, and then I say, oh my God, I have to start again from scratch. So it gets
Mm.
very tiring for me. And then, you know what I'm trying to say? It gets very
I
difficult for
do.
me.
I do. It is very difficult when you're surrounded by those who are not supportive,
Yeah, yeah,
or when you're
yeah,
just surrounded and you don't have a community that is supportive, because community is humongously powerful. We really do
yeah,
need community that is, we surround ourselves with others who believe. And that actually is the reason why I have a program that I have, because I'm so passionate about helping others to overcome
Yeah.
and transcend
Yeah.
their conditions. And so there are many people who go to a Dr. Joe retreat and then come back and have the need for some longer term and more personalized guidance and support. And that's the reason I
Yeah.
created my program. It's a 6-month immersion. And the community is everyone who is going through their own challenge and totally committed to doing this work. So who understand and get it. So especially if you don't have a support system, around you in your physical environment. And
Yeah.
on even more so, you have people who don't believe and who judge, or who tell you that you're out of your mind, and they feed you, even if it's through looks or through,
Yeah.
not
Yeah. Yeah.
accepting, their
Yeah.
body language, and they're not accepting what you're saying. If, like, for instance, the doctors, I used to say to them every time they would tell me there's no cure, I would look at them and say, oh, I'm going to heal myself. And when I do, I'm going to help others to do the same. And that became my mantra. And the doctors would just look at me totally blank faced. So if you have people in your environment who really are showing you by not even responding, not even like supporting you and saying, yes, you are, or believing you,
Yeah.
and like letting you know that they don't believe you, then it's so important to surround yourself with a community, because when you get back from the retreat, you're still left to the same environment, like you just said, the same
Correct.
conditions,
Correct.
experience, the same people, the
Yeah.
same circumstances, the same environment. So
Yeah.
having a community that you surround yourself with, who is going to continue to support you and provide guidance when you get lost, because it's so common for people to come back from a retreat feeling so high and
Yeah. Yeah.
confident, but then when they come back to their life shortly after that, they're back to the same energy. So it's so important to provide yourself with a support system and someone who can guide you when you are relapsing into that old perspective, or believing the limiting beliefs that your mind is feeding you, and the
Yeah.
conditioned program that continues to take over. You need to really have someone, or a group of people that's there to remind you that there's another way of looking at it, and this is actually here for you, so that you can rise above it and no longer let that define you. Does that help?
Uh, yeah, thanks a lot. So, so how do I go about joining your community or your
I'll be happy to send you the link. I have a website called reinventyourselfwithbonnie.com. And just the fact that I had that name for my business way before my health challenge, isn't that amazing? Like, I know that this is all
wow?
happening so synchronistically, because I already had the desire and the passion to help people to overcome limiting beliefs and become a new version of themselves even before
Hmm.
this. So that was the name of my business even before I had my health challenge. So it's just so many different things are so synchronistic in the fact that, that I was invited to get on stage with Dr. Joe. The whole thing was just like this I was divinely sent to that event. And I have a whole video all about all the synchronistics and reasons why I knew that I was being sent there. And it was not even something within my doing. So thank
Okay,
you
Your
so
future
much.
self made it happen.
yeah,
Huh?
is there any particular link to join your community? Or I
Yes.
just go
It's
onto
in
your
the
Yes.
website?
it's in the chat,
Oh, it's
Shileka.
in the
It's in
chat?
the
The
chat
Oh,
right
thank
now.
website
you.
is,
Yeah.
and then you'll click on offerings, and then there's program. My program is called Overcome to Become.
Oh, okay.
That's my
Overcome to
6-month
become.
immersion program. Yes.
Oh,
All
okay.
right.
Okay. Okay. Thank you
Okay.
so much, Bunny. Much
You're
love.
welcome. Yes, much love to
Thank
you,
Okay.
Shri.
you.
I'm glad you made
We
it.
have more
Thank you.
questions.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
let's get to Anubhav. Anubhav, your
And
hand has been
just
raised
just a
for a
quick
while.
just a quick timing. It's 30 minutes to go. I see, Bonnie,
Yeah.
I told you, like we can just go on and on here. But thank you.
You're right.
These are great questions.
Yeah. Yes.
Hi, Bonnie. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, I can.
Bonnie, I'm Anubhav, and all the questions that are asked before this were on my mind. Um, so I have a situation going on for the last 15 years where I uh, entered the military around 15 years, and I developed uh, constipation and stuff. So I started fasting and fruits, and eventually uh, ended up doing a lot of heavy training in the military, and after that I stopped digesting food, so food won't digest, and I just kept quiet about it, because I'm the only son in my family, had to earn money, and then it went on and on quietly, under the rug. The thing was developing every day. I was not able to digest. This kind of discomfort was there. Eventually, I came to know after 9 years that my one of my diaphragm is uh, semi-paralyzed. It doesn't work, and I was living into continuous chronic anxiety. And since then, I've opened multiple doors because I come from India, and there are a lot of philosophies over here of natural systems, Ayurveda, homeopathy, magnet therapy. I have magnets on my hand, and acupuncture and stuff, even astrology and whatnot, black magicians and all that. I've tried and tested. Some of it works to my strength, with whatever strength I have. I tried and evaluated the systems, learned, but no medicine worked on me, and I live in a state of panic. Panic is that I will die because of suffocation. I have suffocation all the time, and this comes and goes. Sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not. Uh, and what's happening is, with my mind is continuously evaluating, as somebody was talking, have I done something bad in my previous life? Have I done something bad? And I
Mm.
start correlating this with astrology, numerology, and multiple systems. And that is taking a lot of my time and energy. And I know when I do Dr. Joe's work, it helps me. But yet I have a very firm belief it won't help me, right? This whole trap thing that somebody was talking about, I'm stuck there. And I've also invested myself in multiple other things. And even in fact, today is no moon, is calculating, oh, today is no moon, what can go, what is what. So all of it, plus this very deep rooted hopelessness, which has come along with this. And I'm in that state where, because I was somebody who was doing specialized, Marine commandos, like the commandos in the US, Delta Force, that kind of training I was doing. I was that fit, right? And then from there, I don't believe this life. What's been happening to me. I can't climb stairs. I can't. So it's very. I question myself. Is this really happening to me? So I'm in that dark space right now. So what would you recommend to me?
So the most important thing from everything that you just shared is to disidentify from the mind, because the mind is taking over. You're continuing to believe the thoughts that the mind is feeding you, that about your condition and why is this happening to me, and is it possible for me to heal, and all of that, judging yourself, when you're not in an elevated state or in the meditation and staying present. And so the most important thing is to first take your power back from the mind, because the anxiety is continuing that continued energy in your body. And again, actually, I didn't even mention this yet, but I also am so passionate about breath work, because in addition to raising our consciousness, we have to focus on the body as well and move the stuck energy. Most of us are living with stuck energy from trauma or from, and again, even if we didn't experience the big T trauma, most of us have experienced a lot of little T traumas that felt like big T's to us. And when we experience trauma in our life, which most of us all have, that energy, we stop breathing during those moments, and we're overwhelmed by whatever's going on, whether it be feelings of being humiliated or shamed, or just totally put in a situation where we are unable to, we don't have the capacity to deal with it at that moment, and we stop breathing, and it causes that energy to stay stuck there, which then causes us to see everything that happens in our 3D reality as we're living in the past. Anything that is even similar or resembles in any way anything that caused us trauma, we immediately only can see it from that narrow perspective, thinking that it's the same thing repeating itself. And we go into that reaction, we go into that anxiety or that panic state. And we're living in just being a puppet to the mind. And it's constantly coming up for us. So when we take our power back from the mind, which is disidentifying from the mind, no longer continuing to believe the mind that keeps feeding us those old thoughts that cause us to feel restricted or feel anxious or not believing in our healing and doubting ourselves, that's the time to bring yourself to presence. So I would really recommend to first really get clear on presence, bringing yourself to presence every time you're aware that, in fact, I have one of the tools that I give my overcomers, which I'll be happy to share with anybody who would like it. I'll have to send you the link, Sharu. It's called a low vibration emotion tracker. And what that is as soon as you become aware that you're feeling triggered in any way, it doesn't have to be major, just any low vibration emotion. If you're feeling, doubtful, or if you're just feeling depressed because of your situation and, seeing everyone else around you living their lives or living the life that you want, and you're feeling like a victim or feeling like a burden because your family has to take care of you, or feeling like, you're helpless and you're not able to take care of yourself, any of those low vibration emotions, that's the time to use that as your guide to show you the deeper underlying program that's needing to be seen and healed. And so this low vibration emotion tracker could be useful as a tool, because once you become aware that you're experiencing a low vibration emotion, then there's a place on this for you to fill in what the emotion is, what the belief was or the thought was that actually, I'm doing it in the wrong order. First, it's what the emotion is, stating the emotion, then what the thoughts were about this situation that caused you, what the trigger was, what the thought was about it, and then asking yourself, what belief must be true in order for this thought to be true? And then changing it. What else could this mean? What other belief could be possible instead of this? And then choosing that one. But each time you fill it out, you can start to see a pattern of what the beliefs are that need to be changed. It's just to help create more awareness around it. But it's your low vibration emotions, your panic experiences, your doubt is all based upon the conditioned program that you don't have to continue to believe anymore. And that's it's coming up for you so that you can change it. Because this is how we take our power back. We don't have to continue to believe the thoughts that our mind is feeding us, and instead choose something different to believe. That's what I would recommend for you.
So one thing is that the doctors, the best doctors in India, they told me get a surgery immediately, else your lungs will collapse. And I've been fighting this. I said no, it won't happen. That's pure mess. And so yeah, I then track and use the tracker, and I believe that this can happen.
Yeah, so it's noticing what the doctors are saying and what it's causing within you, and choosing whether you're going to believe them or not. Doctors only know what they were trained in. They don't understand so much of this work. They don't even know that it's even possible any other way other than what they were trained in. So the biggest thing I would say is don't believe everything the doctors tell you. Don't take it as fact, and instead take your power back from them, from the mind, from the conditioned program, and you become the one who decides what you're going to believe, and believe in possibility.
Thank you.
Okay.
Very nice. All right. I'm going to jump to, because I'm counting the minutes. I want to get to everybody's question. So one from the chat, and then we come to, oh my God, is that Tariq? My dear friend Tariq is here. Lots of friends here today. Amazing. Okay, I'm just gonna get to this question. Oh, actually, it's my mother. She says, thank you for sharing so authentically. I am 75 years old and a patient of liver cirrhosis. Can you please help me with how to frame affirmations for my healing? That's
Yes.
Neelam, my mother.
Well, hello, Sharu's mother. Did you say her name is Neela?
Neelam.
Neelam? I don't see where the
Yes.
name is on here. Okay. Well, hello, Neelam. So nice to meet you. I love your daughter. Um, so yes. So affirmations really are very personal and they need to move. It's really most important is what's going to move you into a state of believing because different words mean different things to each one of us. So the gist of it is finding an affirmation or a mantra that means to you that none of those thoughts or the things that the doctor said or any beliefs that are telling you that it's not possible to heal from this are true because you are the divine child of God. The divine lives within you. You have the ability to heal. And anything that is telling you differently, wherever it's coming from, you don't have to continue to believe anymore. So as soon as you recognize that you're believing anything that's doubtful or that you're feeling fear because you think it's getting worse or whatever the things are for each person is different, bring yourself to presence and then from presence you're safe. Like you are always safe in the present moment. And from there, you're calming your body down, which is why breath work is so important. So I do recommend breath work for anybody who recognizes that you're living in a state of fight or flight, that you're feeling anxiety. Bringing yourself to presence and using the breath is really powerful, but there's many ways that you can bring yourself to presence. And then from presence, choosing an affirmation that's going to mean to you, I don't have to believe this anymore. I'm the one who gets to decide what happens to me because I'm the one who chooses my thoughts. And I'm going to start making it my new motto that, of course, I can heal. I'm the divine child of God. I've got the power. I'm the one who decides where I put my attention. And of course, we know if you're a Dr. Joe follower that where we put our attention is where we put our energy. And our energy is what transcends everything. When we change our energy, we change our life. So, but just by changing how you are perceiving your body, how you are perceiving your abilities to heal, the energy that you're living in will change. And then that's how we heal, by changing who we are being. So any affirmations that mean to you that I don't have to believe that anymore. It could be something like, don't believe the bullshit. It could be whatever's going to really mean something to you that's going to shift you out, just kind of make a total shift in the way that you're feeling, the way that you're believing. Your whole paradigm needs to change so that you're no longer viewing yourself as this limited puppet to the mind or limited, helpless creature that has to just hope and pray that something changes. No, you're the one who has the power to change. So maybe even the affirmation is, I've got the power,
Mm,
whatever affirmation is going to mean something to you. I hope that
yes.
helps.
She's probably feeling shy. But I have an affirmation for you, Mom. You're the healthiest 75-year-old in India. How about that? Right? She said, I'm 75 years old and a patient of liver cirrhosis. I'm like, no, you're the
Yeah,
healthiest 75 years old. Beautiful
right.
lady in India.
Viewing
Okay.
yourself as healthy. That's the
Hmm.
biggest thing is viewing yourself as healthy, viewing yourself as powerful, viewing yourself that's already healed. And that's what my affirmation was. I'm already healed. My body just
Yeah.
needs to catch up. So you're welcome to use that affirmation.
Yes. Lovely.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Bonnie.
Thank you so much.
You're so
I will
welcome.
do.
Wonderful.
So cute. Love you, Mom. Okay, bye.
Mhm.
Tariq.
क्या हो गया
Scott.
Hey, how you doing?
Mute,
Hey,
mom.
Tarek.
Hey, wow, Bonnie, sorry. This is really surreal for me because I had both of your testimonials in my playlist when I started off. Yeah,
Wow.
both of your testimonials and also my man Ikshit who's in here when his dropped in London. I,
Yes.
I added that. I'm thinking, oh, he has a muscle thing too, and I was like, yo, let's go.
Oh, that's
I
great. I love
actually,
it.
Bonnie, I'm not sure if I told you this, but it's actually because of you that I reached out to get my scholarship,
Oh,
and I
wow.
was able to go to San Diego.
Yay!
Yeah,
Oh, I'm so happy to
yeah,
hear that. That's amazing.
yeah,
Oh, that's
definitely.
wonderful. I'm so happy.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
so yeah, I won't be on here like too long because I know I could talk forever. But one thing I was thinking about just what you were sharing, I kind of came in on like the tail end of the conversation before the Q&A. But I've been really thinking about like, what are like the lead dominoes to focus on when it comes to like, healing and all that. And I always find it interesting just hearing like how different people like approach the work. And I know like for me, like one of the things I've been thinking about is like, Doc talks about, personality creating a personal reality. So I'm thinking like, okay, so there really needs to be an identity shift part of it. And
Yes.
I wasn't sure like how much like you emphasize like creating this new character, creating this new identity, and like being it like every day. And if you had like a whole system in which you do that, so
Yeah.
that was the first part, but also like releasing the resistance of being the old person too, because there's always going to be that resistance of, yeah, but I kind of don't think that way or this and that, and so I've always been thinking about like, so it's like identity, beliefs, and then that affects your behaviors and your results. So I've been kind of curious, like how you've navigated that for yourself and how you've gotten clear on what's the old Bonnie and what's the new one, and
Oh, I
and
love
how you
that.
dealt with the friction of stepping into the new Bonnie.
I love that question. Thank you for asking it. And
Definitely.
it's absolutely an identity shift. So that is what I teach. That is what I lead people through, a total change in identity, because it is true what Dr. Joseph, it's absolutely true. We have to change our personality in order to change our personal reality. So we are literally changing who we're being. We're changing our identity. We're changing our self-perception. And so for me personally, and actually, it's interesting that you just asked this because after this call, I'm actually going to be recording a YouTube video all about this shift that I made and how my life has transpired since my health challenge, because that was literally just the catalyst for the changes. My whole life looks totally different now than it did before. That was just the catalyst. And then since then, I've just continued to grow. It's an eternal process. So just because you heal doesn't mean that it's over, right? That's just the beginning. So what I did was I started to recognize whenever I was reacting to something, whenever I was in a low vibration state, I realized what the program was that I had been living in, which was that I've always, my entire life, without knowing it, felt unsafe in my life. And I felt like I wasn't enough. I felt like both of those things. I wasn't enough and I wasn't safe. So I was constantly viewing myself through the perceived judgments of others. So for instance, it became that wound up causing me to become who I was being. That perceived judgments that others were thinking of me. It was just my perception of what others were thinking of me. Most likely it wasn't true, but I was thinking that they were thinking this. And part of it is because I went through trauma, a lot of trauma growing up. And one of the traumatic experiences was that I was bullied when I was young, when I was 11. I was bullied by my closest friends, the group of friends that I trusted implicitly, that I felt like were my forever friends, my do or die. And they all turned against me and they started bullying me and making fun of me. And it was so traumatic that that caused stuck energy in my body, which I've moved through with the breath work. But that kept me, it caused me to be the type of mom that I was, because every time my boys, my adult boys, would like be having their own little conversation and it wasn't including me, I was perceiving them as judging me, even though it had nothing to do with me. My perception was that they were judging me, and then I would become that version of myself that was being judged by my boys, and I would shut down, and I would feel self-conscious, and I didn't feel confident in even talking and saying my beliefs and my thoughts because I felt like I was being judged by them, and none of it was even true. So we create our reality based upon how we're perceiving our reality, and based upon our conditioned program. So when we change, I became aware that this is what was happening. And this was even after my healing. But during my healing, I was becoming aware of the beliefs that I wasn't enough. I was reacting as though, like, things that people did, I was taking personally. And by bringing myself to presence, it made me realize that I don't have to continue to believe that. And what else could this mean? So each and every time, I mean, this is so powerful. Each and every time you become aware that you're reacting to something, or that you're taking something personally and feeling offended or disrespected or devalued or unloved, these are the things that I used to feel all the time based upon whether someone said something or didn't say something. To me, it would mean something about me. And when I changed that, because I became aware that that was a program that I didn't have to believe anymore, then everything changed. I no longer took things personally. So then I started becoming more of the version of me that no longer was so caught up in what other people thought of me, or that interpreted what other people did or didn't do based upon me and what I thought it meant. And it changed everything. It changed who I was being, and it changed my personality. I hope that helped. Did that answer your question?
Oh yeah, definitely appreciate it.
Good, good. I'm so
Hmm.
glad.
Hmm.
Yes, and we can all do this, like every single one of us. This is the reason why the challenge is happening for whoever's going through a challenge. I actually consider those of us who are going through a challenge the chosen ones, because people don't change when everything is always great in our life, when things are going the way we want them to, when there's no reason to go within. They don't change. They just continue. And the people who don't change are the ones who are constantly living their lives suffering, reacting to everything going on in their minds, believing their mind to be the truth, and reacting to everything in their circumstances, being a puppet to the circumstances in their life. So it's those of us who are going through challenge, that are going within and doing this work, that are going to come out of it, not only healing ourselves, but coming out of it free, so that we can live the rest of our lives so much more being the creator of our lives, instead of the victim, just the passive bystander, just happening to go through the motions of our life.
Yes, absolutely. That was amazing, Bonnie. I really love that last answer. I think it's important to understand and remember that multiple programs are running, and they're just programs. I think once you can see it, like, oh, that's a program, that's 50% like already there, right?
Right.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
We have 10 minutes. If someone wants to squeeze in one last short question, we can, or any comments. Anyone wants to give some love back to Bonnie? She's already gotten a lot of love. And
Thank you, everyone. Thank you
And
so much.
anyone wants to share?
I'd like a few minutes as well.
Yeah.
So if anybody else does, I know there's been a lot of comments and clapping and hearts and lots of love surrounding us today.
Yeah, I definitely had another like off the top, but I wanted to give somebody else a chance just in case.
Go ahead, Tarek.
Okay. Would you say, I know that this is a loaded term, Bonnie, but would you say that you had to allow yourself to be delusional?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. In fact, I use that word with my overcomers. That's a
Hmm.
beautiful question. We have to be delusional. We have to believe even more in the creation that we're creating in our imagination. We have to believe even more in that, make that even more real. Like Dr. Joe says, make our inner world, our inner creation, even more real, what we're creating in the quantum. becomes even more real than what's happening in this physical realm, in our 3D environment. We have to believe in that even more. And remember, we have to remind ourselves that this 3D reality is only an illusion. It's not real. Most of us believe that this physical reality is the only reality, that this is more real than anything else, and we react to it that way. And when we recognize that that's not true, and that our reality is what we're creating in our mind, that that's even more real, and we respond and feel and believe even more in that, that's when we are able to transcend this physical reality, when we stop reacting to it and instead believe in that even more. Yes, it's about being delusional. I love it.
Mm.
Great
I love
question.
that question.
Yes,
Somebody's asking in the chat if you teach breath work in your workshop or modules.
I do. Yes. In my Overcome to
Okay.
Become program, we have a breathwork session every month. And then I also just started a new Rewire for Health program that's just a 4-week program. The Overcome to Become program is the one that is for those who are serious about wanting to give themselves everything that they need in order to transcend, because that is an immersion in this work, and it's basically living this work.
And both
Beautiful.
links are in the chat for anybody who wants to grab them. Charu, I'll give you a couple minutes if you'd like, and then I'd love to do a big thank you to both of you and some final comments.
Well, I just want to say, Bonnie, this is not new for me. I met you for the podcast, and I was so touched and moved by your really warm presence. But most of all, I think what really speaks to me is the clarity. And I think clarity only comes to people who have really put one foot in front of the other in the toughest time.
Mm.
And today, I feel like when you said something about you made friends with the nurses and you were just going for following your inner calling, despite what family said, what friends may have said, what the doctors may have said. I just was wondering, like, how open is this woman? And I don't know, I feel like that's your superpower, that you could remain open to possibility in that time. And it has been so inspiring for me to remember that, because I think the heart, especially now with everything going on globally, the heart, every time my heart looks at the news, it just wants to close. And I am just looking at you because you were in a deeply personal, very difficult situation, and you kept the heart open and you were just going for it. So it was really inspiring to hear you, as always. Thank you for the beautiful, deep, insightful share, and for so much information that you really don't get unless you really get this one-on-one interaction. So thank you for coming.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And thank you so much for inviting me. This has been such an honor, and I've really enjoyed being with all of you. So I really appreciate you all. And thank you for all the love and support you've all given me. I feel so welcome here. Thank you.
And such great questions today, huh,
Yeah,
Farzana? We
yeah.
have like this amazing community. They just ask the best questions.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and when I told my sister we're connecting today, she said, it's an auspicious day because it's a new moon today. And so this is really a beautiful way, new beginnings, new moon. And I just want to say, I want to make one comment and then I'm going to do a thank you. Anubhav brought up a beautiful question, and I did want to jump in for anybody who's still here and anyone who listens to the replay. I didn't hear Bonnie say it, but I know for a fact nobody is saying that don't go for surgery. There is an absolute time and place for surgery, for medicine, for what the doctors advise. In my own health history, I was on several months of steroids and very high steroids. And in my mind, I didn't want to be, but I knew that my thoughts hadn't caught up to the new reality. And I needed to give my body a break and take the steroids at that time until my thoughts met my reality, because I knew that if I didn't, I'd be doing more damage. So I think the biggest thing is take inspired action. I think the thing that Dr. Joe has said and Bonnie has said, and in my own healing experience, is that you can make decisions out of fear, and oftentimes we do. But when you get into that spaciousness, that awareness, that consciousness where there's separation between the thoughts and you're not in fear, that's when you can hear true inspiration. And maybe that inspired action is to have surgery. So please do not take anything that we're saying here as not going with medical direction. That can come as inspired action, and in a lot of ways that we might need that medical interaction in order to heal. So I just wanted to make that one clarification.
Absolutely. In fact, like I shared with you, I did do the treatments. I did do the plasmapheresis and the IVIG. Whatever was going to help me, I did do. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do any of the Western medicine, because if it's going to help, then I do believe in both. But I knew that it wasn't going to heal me. I knew that it was just a band-aid that's supposed to help me feel better for that temporary period of time, and that while I was having the treatments, I was also doing the work that was going to heal me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for
And
saying that.
yes, and Bonnie, I'd love for you to share the worksheet with me as well, because we have a few communities that have come here. And so we will share it among all the communities. And that worksheet reminds me a lot of Dr. Joe's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. If people are still new to the work, there's some fantastic books of Dr. Joe's. Becoming Supernatural is my personal favorite. There's You Are the Placebo. And the one that is very activity based is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. If you're truly, truly wanting to change your life and do the work, it's not magic. It's something that will bring you to the mirror of all your thoughts. And when you want to step into the willingness and the courage to go ahead and do that, then it sounds like Bonnie's worksheet will be exactly that. And if you want some background, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself is a great book. And there's a lot of accountability groups that people have set up. And that's another opportunity for you guys as well. So we will share that worksheet around our community so everybody will have that. Bonnie's website and her coaching group, the link is in the chat. And I just want to say that I just had so many beautiful ahas that came through in this session, Bonnie. You didn't just speak to everybody, like you really had a lot of people engaged. And I think different groups vibrate to different live sessions that we have had. And there's a lot of people who personally connected with your story. And you just give off so much love. Like I really appreciated what Charu said. It would have been so challenging to stay in that space of love. And you seem like you really transcended and you were able to stay in that space of love as you were walking through your path. In the grand scheme of things, what you describe, a year seems like really like things must have been happening like super quick once the momentum took off, like in the beginning, there's a lot of ups and downs and ups and downs. And then you catch the momentum and then the momentum guides you. But that momentum only comes when you keep getting over yourself. You overcome your thoughts, your patterns, your behaviors. Then you are a new you. And in the new you, the old illness, the dis-ease no longer belongs. And
Yes.
I was just so inspired hearing your story. And thank you so much, Charu, for sharing this session. It's such a privilege for me to sit back and listen to you. And so moving forward, every live session guest, we will invite all the communities, whether Charu can be part of our events or Ikshit is not able to be here. All the communities will have an invite. You're forever part of our family. Every month we try and bring on a beautiful guest who is doing the work of Dr. Joe. I am personally, invested in the work of Dr. Joe, and this is something and he has a bit of everything: healing, prosperity, relationships. So we are always open. If you have someone directly in your circle that you'd like to introduce us to and bring them on, we would love that. But a lot of our community is very interested in health and healing. And I'm just so grateful that we were able to start January 2026 off with such a powerful powerhouse and such a divine sisterhood with Charu and Bonnie. And so I'm just so grateful that you were able to join us today. And everybody who came on, almost 50 people joined us today on a Sunday when you could be doing anything else. And I have a feeling, Bonnie, we would love to have you back again. So Charu, you and I can discuss that and
We
maybe
never got to the other half.
I know.
I was just thinking that, and so I certainly believe that we could have another session with you, and I would absolutely, welcome you back to come as a speaker, and
Oh, I
always
would love
welcome you
that.
because you're part of the
And
family now. Thank
I
you.
just thank you. And I'm honored. And I just want to share that I do have a YouTube channel, which I am continuing to post videos every week or more, several times a week. And I'm actually going to be posting one about the other half, but I'm sure there'll be questions. So I look forward to coming back.
Oh, that would be just so wonderful, just so wonderful. Yeah, because there wasn't enough time. 2 hours is not enough. But I'd love to have you back. So what is your YouTube channel? What is the name of your YouTube channel?
It's Reinvent Yourself with Bonnie.
I'm gonna just find it very quickly and then put that in the chat as well. Reinvent
Okay.
yourself with Bonnie.
Yes. And I could actually put it in there too. I could bring it up
All
if you
right, I got it.
got it.
And I will, did you already put it in, Bonnie? I have it here too. There we go.
Oh,
All right,
okay.
give everybody a few seconds to go ahead and grab that. And again, thank you, everybody. We will make sure that you get the worksheet. And we have a couple people that join us today, Nina and Sam, who we are going to welcome on as our live session guests. So I would have loved to bring you on. I know we don't have time now, but at least you're part of the family. You felt the energy. You know what we're all about. And we're just love and light here. I just love every time people come into this community, just expands in love and light. And I'm just so grateful that everybody took time on a Sunday to come and join us. Sending you all my love and light. And again, I think 2026 is going to be an absolutely incredible year for us all, every one of us. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
and
Tarek
I
wants to
got an
bring a
idea for an
guest.
amazing guest. Oh yeah, please do. And you can go through Charu and she can connect the two of us. Or I always love when Charu does the hosting. I really love when Charu does the hosting. So you can also connect with Charu directly. But love it, love it, love it. All right, everybody.
Rosanna, I just want to acknowledge you for starting this, making this community growing. It all started with you. We need to thank you for starting it and
I
give
am
you a lot
just
of love.
I am just a vehicle, like when Bonnie and I were lying in that hospital that I'm 100% sure, like, this may have been a driver. I didn't think it at the time, but it became my greatest gift, and you don't walk through the fire and then keep it to yourself, You really want to share. And Charo, you've been through that, not in a hospital bed, but in a very other way in your life. And I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful that I'm able to serve in this way. And that was my response to the lovely lady who commented about people feeling embarrassed out in public. We want to serve. There are so many people who are just wanting to serve, and this feeds me. This is very selfish for me because this feeds me so much, and I just absolutely love it. So thank you, Charu. Thank you so much. I hate to say goodbye and let you guys go because this is such a beautiful way. For us, it's the morning. So for me, I love starting my days with you guys. I know in India it's evening, but wherever you are in the world, again, thank you for joining us today. And I
There are
just,
people from Thailand here today. Debbie's here. There's a lot of people, the different Joe Dispenza communities, India, Thailand,
Charu,
Montreal, Canada,
Charu,
US.
Charu, are you in Thailand right now?
Yes,
What is the time right now, out of
it
curiosity?
is 11:08 p.m.
Oh, well, thank you so much then for really staying with us into the late evening for you. I'm so honored for that. And for people who don't know Charu, she has this unbelievable jewelry line. You have got to check out her jewelry line. And she has a podcast, which is Your Colorful Path with Charu.
Yes.
And
Yes.
just so many beautiful connections that we can make in this group. So thank you again, everybody. You see how I prolong the goodbye? I just can't let it go. Right. We're also going to share the
All right.
replay. I'll have the replay within a couple of hours on an unlisted YouTube video, and then I'll share it among the people that host their groups, and they'll share it with you guys. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks to everybody. Bonnie, thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
for coming.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you
everybody.
so much.
Dikshit, Tarek. My God, I just love that all the friends are here. So good.
Thanks,
Sam was
Val. Thanks,
here.
Bonnie. Thanks, Rosanna.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Bye bye.